Somewhere right now, someone is finding out a different way. A phone left unlocked. A message that wasn't meant to be seen. The feeling is the same one humans have felt for as long as there have been pair bonds that gut drop, that flood of heat behind the eyes. But for most of the people who ever lived, what happened next didn't look like a 5-hour argument or a locked bedroom door. So how did tribal societies across completely different continents actually handle a cheating partner before divorce lawyers, before therapy, before any of it? In 1951, the British anthropologist E. Evans Pritchard published his field research on the Nuer people of southern Sudan, based on years living among them in the 1930s. Marriage there ran on bride wealth, usually 20 to 30 cattle, handed from the groom's family to the bride's. Adultery had its own fixed price too, a fine of 6 cows. 5 of those cows were returned if the affair produced a healthy child. That last detail matters. It means the fine wasn't really punishing betrayal. It was settling a dispute over whose lineage a child belonged to, a legal question, not an emotional one. So what did that actually solve? It turned a wound into a transaction. No trial by fire, no banishment. Just an accounting problem with a fixed, known answer everyone could calculate in advance. Now go to the other side of the world. In 1929, the Polish-British anthropologist Bronislaw Malinowski published his research on the Trobriand Islands, off the coast of New Guinea. Trobriand society was matrilineal. A child's identity and inheritance came entirely through the mother's clan, not the father's. And in Trobriand belief, conception itself wasn't fully tied to sex. Spirits called baloma were understood to enter a woman's body and become her child. Biological fatherhood, the thing an entire modern industry of paternity tests exists to protect, barely registered as a category. Everyone assumes sexual jealousy over whose baby is this is some kind of universal, hardwired law of human nature. In the Trobriands, the premise the question depends on simply wasn't load-bearing. If fatherhood isn't primarily biological, an affair can't threaten it the way it threatens a modern paternity claim. Now the Arctic. In 1970, the anthropologist Lawrence Hennig published a study in the journal Arctic, analyzing spouse exchange among North Alaskan Iñupiat communities, using data gathered from elders between 1961 and 1967, describing a practice that had largely ended by the 1890s. 2 men would formally exchange wives, a sanctioned custom, arranged between families, tied to hunting partnerships and building alliances across a brutal, isolated landscape. Here's where it gets strange. This wasn't a free-for-all. Hennig's informants were consistent. Young people who traded partners on their own initiative, outside the sanctioned arrangement, were condemned by the same community that tolerated the formal version completely. Everyone assumes a culture that shares spouses must have loose, anything-goes sexual standards. The opposite was true. The system was so rule-bound that stepping outside its proper channel is exactly what counted as cheating, while the sanctioned version, judged by outsiders as scandalous, was simply social infrastructure. So is there a pattern underneath all of this, or is every tribe just improvising? In 2023, a team of researchers led by Zachary Garfield, alongside Eric Ringen, William Buckner, Dithapelo Madupe, Richard Wrangham, and Luke Glowacki, published a study in the journal Evolutionary Human Sciences. They coded ethnographic records from 131 largely non-industrial societies drawn from the standard cross-cultural sample, tracking how adultery and other violations were punished reputationally, materially, physically, or by execution. The pattern wasn't random. Societies without food storage and with more egalitarian structures leaned on reputational punishment, shame, gossip, public embarrassment. Societies with food storage leaned toward material punishment, like the Nuer's cattle. Groups more dependent on hunting leaned physical. And execution, the harshest sanction on the list, correlated most with social stratification. The more hierarchical the society, the more likely infidelity could cost you your life. Everyone assumes primitive justice means the crudest, most violent option by default. The data says the opposite. The harshest punishment showed up in the most socially complex, most stratified societies, not the simplest ones. So none of this was really about controlling a feeling. It was about matching the punishment to the economy running underneath it. Cattle cultures priced it in cattle. Egalitarian cultures priced it in reputation. Stratified cultures priced it in blood. The emotion was universal. The mechanism built to metabolize it was engineered, culture by culture, out of whatever resource that society actually depended on to survive. Back at that cattle camp in South Sudan, the 6 cows change hands, and nobody is pretending the pain isn't real. But by sunset, there's a number on it, a resolution, a known next step. That's the part that's missing now. The jealousy hasn't changed in 10,000 years, the same chemical, the same gut drop, the same flood of heat. What's gone is the formula. No cattle, no council of elders, no matrilineal belief system quietly absorbing the blow before it lands. Just one person, alone with a nervous system built for a world that handed them an answer, in a world that hands them nothing but the feeling itself. Every culture in history found a way to solve this. We might be the first one that decided to feel it alone. You're standing at a cattle camp in 1930s Sudan while 6 cows change hands over a broken marriage, and it's not the scene of a tragedy. It's a legal transaction with a fixed price. Across the ancient and tribal world, cheating wasn't handled with a single universal reaction. It was priced, reframed, or sometimes redefined out of existence entirely, depending on what each society actually needed to survive.